Imagine you are lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, your mind racing through 100 different scenarios. You replay past conversations, analyze every little detail, and worry about things that haven't even happened yet. The clock keeps ticking, but sleep feels impossible. Your thoughts seem endless, looping over and over again, trapping you in a cycle you can't escape. Have you ever found yourself stuck in the same thought for hours, unable to move on? Do you ever feel like your mind is working against you, creating problems that don't even exist? Why is it that no matter how much we think, we rarely find peace? Let's take a simple example. Imagine you send a message to a friend, and they don't reply for hours. Your mind instantly jumps to conclusions. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset with me? What if they never talk to me again? The reality might be that they are simply busy, but overthinking convinces you of the worst. This habit not only drains our energy but also steals our happiness. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where we explore deep insights inspired by Buddhism to help you live a more peaceful and fulfilling life. In this video, we will uncover why overthinking is one of the biggest obstacles to inner peace and how you can break free from its grip. Stay with us until the end as we share powerful Buddhist wisdom that can truly transform your mind. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribed. If you find this content helpful, please take a moment to like this video, share it with those who need it, and most importantly, subscribe to Wisdom Woven. Your support means everything, and it helps us bring you more life-changing insights. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your experiences with overthinking. Overthinking is not just a habit, it's a pattern deeply ingrained in the mind. It often starts with one small thought, but before we know it, we are drowning in a sea of unnecessary worries. Many people believe that thinking more will lead to better decisions, but in reality, overthinking leads to confusion, anxiety, and hesitation. It makes simple choices feel overwhelming and turns small setbacks into major failures in our minds. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a restless monkey, constantly jumping from one thought to another. The more we feed it with worries, the more restless it becomes. This is why people who overthink often feel mentally exhausted even when they haven't done anything physically demanding. They are trapped in their own thoughts, unable to fully experience the present moment. But why does overthinking feel so natural? It's because the mind craves control. It believes that by analyzing every detail, it can prevent bad things from happening. However, no amount of thinking can change the past or guarantee the future. This is where suffering begins, when we try to control what is beyond our power. Many Buddhist monks emphasize the importance of mindfulness to break free from overthinking. When we are fully present, thoughts lose their grip on us. Instead of being pulled into endless what-ifs, we learn to observe our thoughts without becoming attached to them. This shift in perspective can bring an immediate sense of relief. Overthinking also creates unnecessary fears. People start imagining the worst-case scenario in every situation. A person afraid of public speaking, for example, might overthink so much that they convince themselves they will embarrass themselves before even stepping on stage. This fear becomes so powerful that it prevents them from taking action, keeping them stuck in self-doubt. The good news is, overthinking is not a permanent condition. It's a habit, and like any habit, it can be changed. But before we dive into the solutions, we must first understand the root of the problem. What causes overthinking? Why do some people overthink more than others? And most importantly, how can we train our minds to break free from this endless loop? In the next part, we will explore the true nature of overthinking, uncovering its hidden causes and how it takes control of our lives without us even realizing it. Stay with us on this journey, because once you understand the mind, you will learn how to master it. The root of overthinking, understanding the mind's illusions. Sit down for a moment. Take a deep breath. Let everything around you fade away. Now, I want you to listen carefully. The mind is like a river. It flows endlessly, never stopping, never resting. But sometimes, it gets caught in whirlpools, spinning in circles, unable to move forward. This is what overthinking does to you. It keeps you trapped in the same spot, going over the same thoughts again and again, never truly reaching an answer. Overthinking is not something that just happens to you. It is something you create, something you allow to take control. The mind is a tool, but most people do not know how to use it. Instead of making the mind work for them, they become its prisoner. They think and think, hoping to find clarity, but all they find is confusion. Why does this happen? Because the mind does not seek peace. It seeks problems. Have you ever noticed that when you sit quietly, your thoughts do not stop? Even when there is no danger, no real problem, the mind creates something to worry about. What if I made the wrong decision? What if something bad happens? What if I fail? These thoughts come like waves, crashing one after another, pulling you deeper into worry. But tell me, has all this thinking ever truly helped you? Or has it only made you feel more stuck, more anxious? Buddha once said, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." If your mind is full of fear, your life will be full of fear. If your mind is full of doubt, your actions will be weak and uncertain. Overthinking is a poison, and the worst part is that it comes disguised as wisdom. It makes you believe that thinking more will lead to better answers. But in reality, overthinking does not solve problems. It only creates them. Think about this. If a tree falls in the forest, does it keep thinking about why it fell? Does it keep replaying the moment over and over again? No. It simply falls, and the forest continues. Nature does not overthink. It flows, it adapts, it moves forward. But humans, they get stuck. They carry the weight of their thoughts, allowing them to build into mountains of doubt and fear. Why does the mind create so many unnecessary thoughts? Because it is afraid of silence. It fears emptiness. When there is nothing to think about, the mind feels lost, so it fills the space with endless chatter. It brings up old memories, worries about the future, and questions that have no real answers. This is why people struggle to meditate. The moment they close their eyes, the mind begins to scream. It does not want to be quiet. It wants control. But here is the truth. Overthinking is an illusion. It makes you believe that you are doing something useful, but in reality, you are just running in circles. Have you ever watched a dog chase its own tail? It runs and runs, thinking it is getting somewhere, but it is only tiring itself out. This is what overthinking does to you. It keeps you busy, but it does not take you anywhere. You might say, but thinking is important. We need to analyze, we need to plan. Yes, thinking is necessary, but there is a difference between thinking and overthinking. Thinking is when you look at a problem, find a solution, and move on. Overthinking is when you look at a problem, then another, and soon you are lost in a storm of worries with no way out. A man once came to Buddha and said, "I suffer because I cannot stop thinking." Buddha smiled and handed him a cup of water. "Shake this cup," he said. The man shook it, and the water became disturbed, rippling with waves. Then Buddha said, "Now, let it be still." The man placed the cup on the ground, and slowly, the water settled, becoming calm and clear. This, Buddha said, is your mind. When you keep shaking it with endless thoughts, it becomes restless and confused. But if you let it be, it will find peace on its own. Overthinking is the act of shaking the cup. It is the refusal to let the water settle. But understand this, the mind will never be clear if you keep disturbing it. If you want peace, you must allow the thoughts to come and go without clinging to them. People overthink because they are afraid of making mistakes. They believe that if they analyze everything enough, they can avoid failure. But tell me, has anyone ever lived a life without mistakes? No. Mistakes are a part of learning. The more you try to avoid them, the more you trap yourself in fear. Overthinking does not prevent failure, it prevents action. It stops you from living. If you throw a pebble into a pond, the water ripples for a moment, then becomes still again. But if you keep throwing pebbles, the water will never be calm. This is how the mind works. Every thought is a pebble. If you keep feeding the mind with worries, it will never find peace. But if you allow thoughts to come and go without clinging to them, the mind will settle on its own. Overthinking comes from attachment. People become attached to their thoughts, their worries, their fears. They hold on to them as if they are real, as if thinking about them long enough will change something. But thoughts are not reality. They are like clouds in the sky, constantly shifting, constantly changing. If you watch them without attachment, they will pass. But if you chase them, you will always feel lost. Let me ask you this. Have you ever solved a problem by thinking about it endlessly? Or did the answer come when you finally let go? The greatest wisdom often comes in moments of stillness, not in moments of struggle. When the mind is quiet, clarity arises naturally. You do not need to fight your thoughts. You do not need to stop them by force. You only need to watch them, like leaves floating down a river. Let them pass. Do not chase them, do not grab onto them. Simply observe, and soon, the river will flow smoothly once again. Overthinking is not who you are. It is only a habit, and all habits can be changed. In the next part, we will go even deeper. Why does overthinking create suffering? What does Buddhism teach about breaking this cycle? And most importantly, how can you begin to set yourself free? Stay with me, and together, we will step out of the storm of thoughts and into the peace that has been waiting for you all along. How overthinking creates suffering. The Buddhist perspective. Sit with me for a moment. Take a deep breath. Let your shoulders relax. Let your mind settle, like a pond untouched by the wind. Now, listen carefully. There is a great misunderstanding in this world. People believe that suffering comes from the outside. They think it comes from their failures, from the words of others, from the situations they cannot control. But suffering does not come from these things. Suffering is born inside the mind. And one of the greatest sources of suffering is overthinking. Imagine a man walking through a forest. As he walks, he suddenly feels a sharp pain in his foot. He looks down and sees that he has stepped on a thorn. The pain is real. But now, instead of simply pulling out the thorn, he begins to panic. Why did this happen to me? What if the wound gets infected? What if I can never walk properly again? His mind fills with fear. His suffering multiplies. Buddha taught that life gives us two arrows. The first arrow is the pain itself, the thorn in the foot, the loss of a loved one, the failure of a plan. This pain is real. It is part of being human. But the second arrow is the suffering we create in our minds. It is the endless thinking, the worries, the fears, the regrets. This suffering is optional. But most people do not realize this. They shoot themselves with the second arrow over and over again, making their pain far greater than it needs to be. Overthinking is the second arrow. It takes a small problem and turns it into a storm. It turns a single mistake into an identity, a single failure into a lifetime of doubt. It is not the situation itself that causes suffering. It is the mind's refusal to let go. Have you ever made a mistake and then replayed it in your head again and again? Have you ever imagined every possible way something could go wrong, even when nothing bad has happened yet? This is the suffering created by overthinking. It keeps you trapped in a world of worry, even when the present moment is perfectly fine. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young man who lived in a small village. He was kind and hardworking, but he had one great weakness. He could never stop thinking. One day, he made a mistake while working in the fields, and his master scolded him. It was a small thing, something everyone forgets after a moment. But the young man could not forget. As he walked home, his mind replayed the moment again and again. Why did I do that? What if my master thinks I am useless? What if I lose my job? He barely slept that night. The next day, he was so tired and distracted that he made even more mistakes. His master scolded him again, and his worries grew even heavier. He started avoiding people, thinking they were laughing at him. He stopped enjoying his work. He stopped smiling. He was no longer living. He was just thinking. One evening, an old monk passed through the village and saw the young man sitting alone, lost in thought. The monk sat beside him and asked, "Why do you look so troubled?" The young man sighed. "I cannot stop thinking about my mistakes," he said. "I wish I could go back in time and fix them." The monk picked up a rock and threw it into the river. "Did you see that rock?" he asked. "Yes," the young man said. "Now, go and bring it back." The young man frowned. "But that is impossible. The rock is gone." The monk nodded. "Exactly. The past is like that rock. It is already at the bottom of the river. No matter how much you think about it, you cannot bring it back. The only thing you can do is let the water keep flowing." Overthinking makes people believe they can change the past with their thoughts. It makes them believe they can control the future by worrying about it. But the truth is, no amount of thinking can change what has already happened. And no amount of worrying can guarantee what will come next. All it does is steal the present moment. Many people think that overthinking means they are being careful, that it helps them avoid mistakes. But in reality, overthinking does not prevent suffering, it creates it. When you overthink, you are not solving problems. You are only creating new ones in your mind. Have you ever seen a bird sit on a branch and worry about whether it will break? No. The bird simply trusts its wings. It knows that even if the branch falls, it will be able to fly. This is how life should be lived, not by clinging to every worry, but by trusting yourself to handle whatever comes. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes from attachment, and overthinking is a form of attachment, to the past, to the future, to things that do not even exist. People become so attached to their thoughts that they forget how to live. They think and think, but they never act. They worry and worry, but they never move forward. Tell me, what is the use of carrying a heavy bag if you do not have to? Why hold on to a thought that only causes you pain? Just as you can put down a bag, you can put down a thought. Just as you can step out of the rain, you can step out of suffering. If you watch a fire, you will see that it needs fuel to keep burning. The same is true for overthinking. It needs your attention, your energy, your time. If you stop feeding it, it will burn out on its own. The more you let go, the lighter you will feel. The more you stay in the present, the less suffering you will create for yourself. Overthinking is like carrying an umbrella long after the storm has passed. It is like wearing armor in a battle that no longer exists. It is the fear of drowning even when you are standing on dry land. but you do not have to live this way. There is another path, a path of peace, of clarity, of presence. A path where thoughts come and go, but they do not control you. A path where suffering is not created by the mind, but dissolved by awareness. In the next part, we will take another step on this journey. Why do people cling to the illusion of control? Why do they believe that thinking more will give them power over the future? And most importantly, how can you finally let go and trust the flow of life? Stay with me. The journey is not over. The mind may be restless, but peace is always within reach. Breaking free from the chains of overthinking. Sit down, close your eyes for a moment, and take a deep breath. Feel the air entering your lungs, then leaving. Notice how your chest rises and falls without you needing to think about it. The body knows what to do. The present moment is here, yet the mind constantly wanders elsewhere, trapped in endless loops of thought. Overthinking is like a prison with invisible walls. People do not see the bars, but they can feel them. Their own mind becomes a cage, locking them inside endless questions, doubts, and fears. They think they're searching for answers, but instead, they only dig deeper into confusion. It is like standing in a river and trying to grab the flowing water. No matter how tightly they try to hold on, it slips through their fingers. Let me tell you a story. There was once a wise old master and his student. The student was always anxious, always thinking about what he should do, what might go wrong, what others thought of him. One day, the master gave him a cup and started pouring tea. He poured and poured, even after the cup was full, letting the tea spill onto the floor. The student quickly said, "Master, the cup is full. It cannot hold any more." The master smiled and said, "Your mind is like this cup, so full of thoughts that there is no space for anything new. If you do not empty it, how can you receive wisdom?" The student lowered his head in understanding. Overthinking is filling the cup of the mind with endless thoughts, worrying about the past, fearing the future, replaying old conversations, imagining scenarios that will never happen. This is how people overflow their minds. They carry heavy burdens, not realizing they can set them down at any time. Many believe that thinking more will lead them to the right decision. But in reality, too much thinking leads to doubt, and doubt leads to inaction. How many opportunities have been lost because someone thought too much instead of acting? How many moments of joy have been ruined by worries about things that never happened? Overthinking is like tying stones to your feet and wondering why it is hard to walk. It creates unnecessary weight, making even small decisions feel like mountains. It turns a simple choice into an endless debate, a single mistake into a lifelong regret. It keeps the mind busy but never at peace. Tell me, have you ever seen a bird hesitate before flying? Have you ever seen a tree doubt whether it should grow? Nature does not overthink, it simply follows its way. The river does not stop to question whether it should keep flowing. The sun does not wonder if it should rise. They simply do what they are meant to do. But humans, with their brilliant minds, often become trapped in their own intelligence. They believe that more thinking will give them control. But the more they try to control everything, the more they suffer. Imagine you are walking through a dense forest, carrying a lantern. The path ahead is dark, and you can only see a few steps in front of you. If you stand still, waiting for the entire path to be revealed, you will never move forward. But if you take one step, then another, the path keeps unfolding. This is how life works. You do not need to see the whole journey before you begin. Overthinking tries to predict every twist and turn, every obstacle and challenge, but it is impossible to know everything in advance. The only way to truly move forward is to trust and take the next step. Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment." The past is like a book you have already read. The future is like a book that has not yet been written. But the present moment, this is where life is happening. Yet, overthinking pulls people away from it, making them live in places that do not exist. Imagine sitting by a calm lake. The water is still, reflecting the sky above. But now, imagine throwing stones into it, one after another. The water becomes disturbed, the reflection disappears. This is what overthinking does to the mind. It creates ripples, distortions, illusions. A single thought turns into 100, and soon, there is no clarity left. So how does one stop overthinking? First, recognize that thoughts are not always real. Just because the mind says something does not mean it is true. The mind is like a storyteller, always creating scenarios, but not all stories need to be believed. Second, practice awareness. When a thought arises, observe it. Do not fight it, do not chase it. Simply watch it like a cloud passing in the sky. Notice how it appears, then fades away. Thoughts only have power when you hold on to them. Third, bring your attention to the present. Feel your breath. Listen to the sounds around you. Focus on what is in front of you. The more you anchor yourself in the present, the less power the wandering mind has. And finally, let go. Let go of the need to control everything. Let go of the belief that thinking more will solve everything. Let go of the illusion that every problem must be analyzed from every angle. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is simply be. There is great freedom in surrendering to the flow of life. When you stop resisting, stop overanalyzing, stop fighting with your own thoughts, you will find that peace was always there. It was just hidden beneath the noise of the mind. The mind is a powerful tool, but it is meant to serve you, not control you. Overthinking is like a wild horse. If left unchecked, it will run in all directions, exhausting itself. But when trained, when guided, it can take you anywhere. So ask yourself, are you the master of your mind, or is your mind the master of you? If your thoughts control you, you will always feel restless. But if you learn to guide your thoughts, you will walk the path of peace. In the next part, we will go deeper. Why do people struggle to silence the mind? What makes thoughts so persistent? And most importantly, how can one find stillness even in a world full of noise? Stay with me. The journey continues. The illusion of control. Sit quietly for a moment. Take a deep breath in, and let it out slowly. Listen to the sounds around you, the distant hum of life, the whisper of the wind, the beating of your own heart. All of these things are happening without your control. The world moves, time flows, and life continues whether you think about it or not. Yet, the mind clings to the illusion that it must control everything. Overthinking is born from this illusion. The mind believes that if it thinks hard enough, it can predict every outcome, prevent every mistake, and find the perfect answer. It believes that by holding on to every thought, it can control life itself. But life is like water, it cannot be grasped, no matter how tightly one tries to hold on. Imagine a man standing on the shore, watching the ocean. He sees the waves rising and falling, coming and going. He does not try to stop them, nor does he try to push them forward. He simply watches. He understands that the waves have their own rhythm, their own flow. Now, imagine another man, standing in the water, desperately trying to hold back the waves with his hands. He fights against the tide, exhausting himself. He believes that if he tries hard enough, he can control the ocean. But no matter what he does, the waves continue. This is the difference between one who lets go and one who overthinks. The first accepts the flow of life, while the second struggles against it, believing he can force things to go his way. But life does not work that way. The more one tries to control everything, the more they suffer. There is an old saying, man suffers most from the suffering he fears. People do not just experience pain, they think about it long before it happens. They imagine problems that do not exist. They fear things that may never come. In trying to avoid suffering, they create more suffering. Have you ever noticed how children live? They laugh, they cry, they fall, they get up again. They do not sit and overthink every little thing. They do not spend hours worrying about tomorrow. They live fully in each moment. They have not yet learned the habit of trying to control life, and because of that, they are free. But as people grow older, they begin to believe that control is the key to happiness. They think that if they can just plan enough, think enough, and prepare enough, they can avoid pain and ensure success. They try to control what others think of them, how events unfold, and even how they themselves feel. But have you ever noticed? No matter how much you plan, things rarely go exactly as expected. No matter how much you think, you cannot predict every outcome. And no matter how much you try, you cannot force yourself to always feel a certain way. A bird does not decide when the wind will blow. A tree does not choose when the seasons will change. They simply adapt. The bird rides the wind when it comes. The tree sheds its leaves when the time is right. They do not resist, they move with life. But humans resist. They fight the wind, trying to push against it. They cling to the past, refusing to let go. They fear the future, trying to control what has not yet come. In doing so, they make their own minds a battlefield. Buddha once said, "You only lose what you cling to." What does this mean? It means suffering comes not from life itself, but from the way people try to hold on to it. They cling to their thoughts, their fears, their expectations. They cling to the idea that everything must happen in a certain way. And when life moves differently, they feel lost. But what if, instead of clinging, one simply flowed? What if, instead of trying to control everything, one trusted the natural rhythm of life? What if, instead of overthinking, one simply acted when the time was right and rested when the time was wrong? Think of a musician playing the flute. If he tries too hard, if he forces each note, the music does not flow. But when he relaxes, when he lets the breath move naturally, the melody is beautiful. Life is like this. Overthinking is like pressing too hard on the keys, trying to force the music. But peace comes when one lets go and allows life to play its song. So how does one stop trying to control everything? First, recognize that life is uncertain. No amount of thinking will change that. The future is unknown, and that is not a problem. It is simply the way things are. Instead of fearing uncertainty, embrace it. See it as an adventure, not a threat. Second, accept that mistakes will happen. No one can avoid them. Even the wisest people have failed many times. Overthinking tries to prevent every mistake, but this is impossible. Instead of fearing failure, see it as a teacher. Every mistake is a lesson. Every failure is a step forward. Third, let go of what is not in your control. Can you control what others think of you? Can you control every outcome? Can you control the flow of time? No. Then why waste energy trying? Focus only on what you can do in this moment. Everything else is like the wind. Let it blow. Finally, learn to trust. Trust yourself. Trust life. Trust that no matter what happens, you will handle it when the time comes. You do not need to solve every problem before it appears. You do not need to know every answer before the question is asked. Live one step at a time. There is a great peace in surrendering to life. Not in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of flowing with it. Like a leaf carried by the river, moving effortlessly with the current, rather than struggling against it. So ask yourself, are you fighting the waves, or are you watching them? Are you forcing the music, or are you letting it play? Are you trying to hold onto the wind, or are you letting it guide you? The answer to these questions will determine whether your mind is a place of struggle or a place of peace. In the next part, we will explore something deeper. Why does the mind hold on to negative thoughts so tightly? Why do people find it so hard to let go of worry? And most importantly, how can one finally break free from the cycle of endless thinking? The journey continues. Stay with me. The weight of negative thoughts. Sit still for a moment. Close your eyes. Imagine you are carrying a heavy bag. Inside this bag are all the negative thoughts you have ever had, your regrets, your worries, your fears. Feel the weight pressing down on your shoulders. You have been carrying this bag for so long that you no longer notice how heavy it is. Now, imagine someone walking beside you, carrying nothing. They move freely, lightly. They smile, while you struggle under the weight of your own mind. You wonder, why do I keep carrying this? Why can't I just let go? Negative thoughts cling to the mind like dust in the wind. They settle into every corner, filling the spaces of silence. Even in moments of peace, they whisper, what if something goes wrong? What if I fail? What if people don't like me? The mind, left unchecked, is like a room with an open window on a stormy day. The wind blows in, bringing dirt, leaves, and chaos. But instead of closing the window, you try to clean up the mess while the storm rages on. You fight against thoughts, trying to push them away, but they only come back stronger. Why does this happen? Why do negative thoughts return even when you want to be free? The answer is simple. The mind is addicted to them. Imagine a man sitting in a dark room. He has lived there for so long that he has forgotten what sunlight looks like. One day, someone opens the door, letting in a stream of light. But instead of stepping into the brightness, he covers his eyes. The light is unfamiliar, and the darkness, though uncomfortable, feels safe. This is how the mind works. It holds on to negativity because it is familiar. Even suffering, when it is known, feels safer than the unknown. The mind would rather repeat painful thoughts than face the silence of peace. But here's the truth: negative thoughts are like ghosts. They haunt you only because you keep listening to them. They have no real power. They are just echoes of past fears and imagined problems. So how does one let go? How does one free the mind from this endless loop? First, understand this: thoughts are not reality. Just because a thought appears does not mean it is true. A cloud may cover the sun, but the sun still shines behind it. In the same way, a negative thought may pass through the mind, but it does not define you. Imagine sitting by a river. The water flows, carrying leaves, twigs, and dirt. Some people jump into the river, trying to grab every leaf that floats by. Others sit on the bank, watching, letting the river carry everything away. The mind is this river. Negative thoughts are the leaves. You do not need to catch them. You do not need to hold them. Just watch them pass. Let them go. Many people make the mistake of fighting their thoughts. They say, I should not be thinking this. I should not feel this way. But this is like trying to stop the wind with your hands. The more you resist, the stronger it becomes. Instead of fighting, simply observe. When a negative thought appears, do not argue with it. Do not believe it. Do not reject it. Just notice it. Say, there you are again, and let it drift away. There is a saying, A bird may land on your head, but you do not have to let it build a nest. Thoughts will come and go. You cannot stop them from appearing, but you do not have to invite them to stay. The second step to freedom is presence. Negative thoughts pull you into the past or push you into the future. They make you regret. They make you fear. But reality only exists in this moment. Look around you. Feel the air on your skin. Listen to the sounds of life. Breathe deeply. This moment is real. The past is a memory. The future is a dream. The only thing that truly exists is now. When you live in the present, negativity loses its grip. The mind cannot hold on to worry when it is focused on what is right in front of it. A Zen master was once asked, "How do you find peace?" He smiled and said, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I sleep, I sleep." The questioner was confused. "But everyone does these things." The master shook his head. "No. When you eat, your mind is filled with worries. When you walk, your thoughts are elsewhere. When you sleep, your mind races with what-ifs. That is why you do not have peace. True peace is found in fully experiencing each moment. If you eat, taste your food. If you walk, feel your feet touching the ground. If you speak, listen to your own voice. Be present, and the mind will not have room for negativity. The third step is to let go of the need for control. Many negative thoughts come from the belief that if we think enough, we can control everything. But control is an illusion. Imagine trying to hold a handful of water. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. Life is the same. The more you try to control it, the more stress and worry you create. Instead of control, practice trust. Trust that whatever comes, you will handle it. Trust that not every problem needs solving. Trust that sometimes, the best action is no action. And finally, practice kindness toward yourself. The mind has been trained for years to hold on to negativity. It will not change overnight. Be patient. If a negative thought comes, do not scold yourself. Do not get frustrated. Simply return to the present moment. Again and again, like training a wild horse, gently bring the mind back. There is a story of a traveler who carried a heavy rock everywhere he went. One day, he met a wise man who asked him, "Why do you carry that?" The traveler said, "I don't know. I've carried it for so long that I forgot I was holding it." The wise man said, "Then why not put it down?" The traveler was silent for a moment. Then, he let go. And for the first time in years, he felt free. You too have been carrying something heavy, but you do not have to. You can put it down. Right now. You can choose to stop feeding negative thoughts. You can choose to let them pass like clouds in the sky. You can choose to be present. So ask yourself, what are you carrying that you no longer need? What thoughts have you held on to for too long? Are they helping you, or are they only adding weight? In the next part, we will go deeper. Why does the mind cling to suffering even when it desires peace? What hidden attachments keep people trapped in their own thoughts? And most importantly, how can one break free from suffering once and for all? The journey is not over. Stay with me. The trap of endless thinking. Sit for a moment and take a deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs. Now, ask yourself, when was the last time your mind was completely silent? When was the last time you felt no thoughts pulling you in different directions? For most people, true stillness never comes. Even in quiet moments, the mind keeps running, replaying the past, worrying about the future, creating imaginary scenarios that never happen. It is like a wheel that spins without end. The question is, why? Why does the mind refuse to rest? Imagine a man walking through a dense forest. He does not know the way out, so he keeps wandering in circles, hoping to find a path. He is exhausted, but he keeps moving, believing that if he stops, he will be lost forever. This is how the mind behaves. It believes that if it stops thinking, something terrible will happen. It believes that overthinking is the only way to stay safe. But in reality, overthinking does not lead to solutions. It only leads to exhaustion. The truth is, the mind is addicted to thinking. It does not matter if the thoughts are useful or useless. The mind clings to them because it fears emptiness. It fears silence. But silence is not dangerous. In fact, silence is where true wisdom is found. There is a story of a student who asked his Zen master, "What is the most important lesson in life?" The master smiled and poured tea into the student's cup. He kept pouring until the tea overflowed and spilled onto the table. The student shouted, "Stop. The cup is full." The master said, "Exactly. Your mind is like this cup. It is so full of thoughts that nothing new can enter. If you want wisdom, you must first empty your cup." Most people's minds are like overflowing cups. They are filled with endless thoughts, worries, and fears. There's no space for peace. No space for clarity. No space for true understanding. So how does one empty the cup? How does one escape the endless trap of overthinking? First, understand this. Thinking is just a tool. It is useful when needed, but harmful when used excessively. A knife is helpful when cutting vegetables, but dangerous when carried without reason. The same is true for thoughts. Use them when necessary, but do not hold on to them when they are no longer needed. Many people believe that thinking more will help them solve their problems. But have you ever noticed that the more you think, the more confused you become? The more you analyze, the more uncertain you feel? This is because overthinking is like quicksand. The harder you struggle, the deeper you sink. Imagine someone trying to untangle a ball of thread. If they pull too hard, the knots tighten. But if they loosen their grip, the knots begin to unravel on their own. The same is true for the mind. The more you fight your thoughts, the more tangled they become. The moment you let go, clarity begins to arise. The next step is to learn to observe your thoughts instead of getting caught in them. Imagine sitting by a river. Leaves float by on the water. Some are bright and beautiful, others are dark and rotten. But whether good or bad, you do not try to grab them. You just watch them pass. The mind is like this river. Thoughts will come and go. Some will be pleasant, some will be painful, but you do not have to hold on to them. You can simply observe them, like watching leaves float downstream. A Zen monk once said, "A thought is only as strong as the attention you give it." If you stop feeding thoughts with your energy, they lose their power. They fade away, just like a fire dies when it runs out of wood. But most people do the opposite. They keep adding fuel to the fire. They keep questioning, analyzing, doubting. They keep creating stories in their minds that never end. Ask yourself, how many times have you imagined a worst-case scenario that never actually happened? How many times have you wasted hours, days, or even years worrying about things that never came true? The mind creates illusions, and then it suffers from them. It builds prisons and then complains about being trapped. But here is the truth. The door to the prison has always been open. You are free to walk out at any time. You do not need to wait for the mind to stop thinking. You simply need to stop believing every thought that arises. The next step is to return to the present moment. Overthinking only happens when the mind is lost in the past or the future. It regrets what has already happened. It fears what has not yet come. But reality exists only in the now. Look at a child playing. They do not worry about what happened yesterday or what will happen tomorrow. They are fully immersed in the moment. They laugh, they run, they explore. This is the natural state of the mind. Free, light, unburdened. A monk was once asked, "How do you stop overthinking?" He picked up a cup of tea and took a slow sip. Then, he said, "When I drink tea, I drink tea." The questioner was confused. "What does that mean?" The monk smiled. "It means I do not drink tea while thinking about the past or the future. I simply drink. Fully, completely, with all my attention. Overthinking disappears when you return to what is in front of you. If you eat, taste your food. If you walk, feel each step. If you breathe, notice the air entering and leaving your body. This is the secret. Overthinking is not stopped by more thinking. It is stopped by presence. And finally, let go of the need for certainty. Overthinking often comes from the desire to control everything. The mind believes that if it thinks enough, it can predict every outcome, prevent every mistake, and make life safe. But life is uncertain. It always has been. It always will be. Trying to control everything is like trying to hold water in your hands. No matter how hard you try, it slips through your fingers. Instead of fearing uncertainty, embrace it. Accept that not everything needs an answer. Accept that some things will always be unknown. And that is okay. In the end, the mind is like a wild horse. If you try to fight it, it will resist. But if you learn to ride it, it will take you anywhere you wish to go. Overthinking is not solved by thinking more. It is solved by thinking less. By letting go. By trusting that life will unfold as it is meant to. So ask yourself, what if you stopped overthinking? What if you simply lived? In the next part, we will explore something even deeper. Why does the mind create fear? Why do certain thoughts have more power over us than others? And most importantly, how can we break free from fear itself? The journey continues. Stay with me. Breaking free from fear. Close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath. Now, think of the one fear that keeps coming back to your mind. Maybe it is the fear of failure. Maybe it is the fear of losing someone. Maybe it is the fear of being alone. Whatever it is, notice how it makes you feel. Notice how your heart beats faster, how your body tenses, how your mind starts to race. Fear is not just an emotion, it is a force that takes control of the body and mind. It makes you feel powerless, trapped, uncertain. But what if I told you that fear is not real? What if I told you that fear is nothing more than a shadow and illusion created by the mind? Imagine you are walking alone at night. You see a dark figure standing at the end of the road. Your heart pounds. Your breath becomes shallow. Your mind screams, danger. But as you move closer, you realize it was just a tree. The fear felt real, but it was never real. This is how fear works. It creates stories that seem true, but are not. The mind is always predicting danger, even when there is none. It tells you that you will fail before you even try. It tells you that people will leave you, even when they haven't. It tells you that you are not good enough, even when you are. But why does the mind do this? Because it believes that fear will protect you. It believes that if you expect the worst, you will never be hurt. But this is a mistake. Fear does not protect you, it limits you. It builds walls around your life. It keeps you from growing, from experiencing, from truly living. A man once went to the Buddha and said, "I am always afraid. No matter what I do, fear follows me. How do I get rid of it?" The Buddha smiled and said, "Sit in a quiet place and close your eyes. Imagine the worst thing that could happen. Feel the fear fully. Then, open your eyes and see if the fear changed anything." The man did as the Buddha said. He imagined everything he was afraid of, losing his money, his family, his health. He felt his fear grow stronger and stronger. But when he opened his eyes, he realized nothing had happened. The fear only existed in his mind. This is the secret. Fear only has power when you run from it. The moment you turn to face it, it begins to fade. So how do you overcome fear? How do you free yourself from its grip? First, recognize that fear is a thought, not reality. Most fears are not based on what is happening now, but on what might happen in the future. The mind imagines the worst, and then it believes its own imagination. But the future does not exist yet. The only reality is this moment. And in this moment, you are safe. Second, allow yourself to feel fear without fighting it. Fear only grows stronger when you resist it. But if you simply allow it to be there, without reacting, it starts to lose its power. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. If you try to fight the wind, it will push you down. But if you stand still and let the wind pass through you, it cannot harm you. A Zen master once told his student, "If you want to overcome fear, invite it in for tea." The student was confused. What does that mean? The master said, instead of running from fear, welcome it. Sit with it. Look at it closely, and you will see that it is nothing but empty air. Third, take action despite fear. Fear always whispers, wait. Do not take the risk. Do not move forward. It tries to keep you in the same place forever. But the only way to silence fear is to do the very thing it tells you not to do. A warrior is not someone who has no fear. A warrior is someone who moves forward, even with fear in their heart. Imagine a child learning to swim. They're afraid of the water. They believe they will sink. But the only way to learn is to step into the water. And once they do, they realize the fear was never real. The same is true for every fear in life. The moment you face it, it begins to lose its grip. Finally, replace fear with trust. Trust that no matter what happens, you will be okay. Trust that you have the strength to handle whatever comes. Trust that life will unfold as it should. Fear is based on the belief that you are alone, that you have no control, that bad things will destroy you. But this is not true. You are stronger than you think. You are wiser than you know. You have survived every difficult moment in your life so far. And you will survive whatever comes next. There is an old Zen saying, a bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking, because its trust is not in the branch, but in its own wings. Fear makes you cling to things outside yourself, money, people, circumstances. But trust reminds you that no matter what changes, you will always have yourself. So ask yourself, what if you stop fearing? What if you let go of the stories in your mind? What if, instead of fearing life, you embraced it? In the next part, we will explore something even deeper. Why do some thoughts have more power than others? How does the mind choose what to focus on? And how can we take back control of our thoughts? The journey continues. Stay with me. The weight of overthinking. Close your eyes and imagine you are carrying a heavy bag. At first, it feels manageable, but as time passes, it begins to feel heavier. Your shoulders ache, your back strains, and every step becomes more difficult. Now, imagine carrying this bag every single day without ever putting it down. This is what overthinking does to the mind. At first, it seems harmless. Just a few thoughts here and there, questions, worries, what-ifs. But as these thoughts grow, they start to weigh you down. They become a burden that follows you everywhere. They make simple decisions feel impossible. They turn small problems into mountains. They fill your days with exhaustion and your nights with restlessness. But here is the truth. The weight of your thoughts is not real. You are carrying something that you do not need to carry. A student once came to a Zen master and said, "My mind is filled with too many thoughts. I analyze everything. I cannot stop. What should I do?" The master handed him a glass of water and said, "Hold this." The student held the glass. A few minutes passed. The glass was light. He smiled, thinking, "This is easy." But after 10 minutes, his arm started to hurt. After 30 minutes, his hand began to tremble. After an hour, he was in agony. The master asked, "Is the glass heavier now?" The student, breathing heavily, replied, "No, it is the same. But the longer I hold it, the more it hurts." The master nodded. That is how overthinking works. A single thought is nothing. But if you hold on to it for too long, it becomes suffering. The student put the glass down and felt relief. He understood the lesson. So now, I ask you, what thoughts are you holding on to? What worries, regrets, or fears have you carried for too long? Are they helping you, or are they only causing pain? The mind believes that thinking more will lead to answers. It believes that if it keeps analyzing, it will find certainty. But overthinking does not bring clarity, it creates confusion. A person who overthinks is like someone stirring muddy water. The more they stir, the cloudier it becomes. But if they stop stirring and wait, the water becomes clear on its own. So how do we put down the glass? How do we let go of the burden of overthinking? First, recognize that you are not your thoughts. Most people believe that if a thought appears in their mind, it must be true. But thoughts are not reality. They are just passing clouds in the sky. Some are useful, but most are just noise. You do not have to believe every thought. You do not have to follow every worry. Imagine you are sitting by a river. Leaves are floating on the surface. Each leaf represents a thought. Some are positive, some are negative, some are completely random. Most people grab onto every leaf, studying it, analyzing it, worrying about it. But the wise person simply watches. They let the leaves float by, without attachment. This is how you free yourself from overthinking. You do not have to stop thoughts. You simply have to stop holding on to them. Second, bring your focus back to the present moment. Overthinking always takes you away from now. It either drags you into the past, making you relive regrets and mistakes, or it throws you into the future, making you anxious about things that have not happened yet. But the past is gone, and the future is not here. The only thing that is real is this moment. A Zen monk was once asked, "What is the most important moment in life?" He replied, "The moment you are in right now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, only now." So when you catch yourself overthinking, stop. Take a deep breath. Feel the air entering your lungs. Feel your feet on the ground. Look around you and notice the world as it is. This moment is real. The thoughts in your mind are just illusions. Third, take action instead of overthinking. Overthinking paralyzes you. It makes you feel stuck, as if you cannot move until you have the perfect answer. But there is no perfect answer. There is only action. A person who overthinks is like someone standing at the edge of a river, trying to figure out the best way to cross. They analyze every step. They consider every possibility. But they never move. Meanwhile, another person simply steps into the water and finds their way. The only way to break free from overthinking is to do something. Even a small action is better than endless thinking. If you are unsure about a decision, take one step and see what happens. If you are worried about failure, start anyway and learn as you go. If your mind is stuck in thought, shift your focus to movement. Walk, clean, write, create. Let action guide you, not fear. Finally, trust that you do not need to have everything figured out. Life is uncertain. No matter how much you think, you will never have complete control. But you do not need complete control. You only need trust. Trust that whatever happens, you will handle it. Trust that you are capable. Trust that life will unfold as it should. A traveler once asked a Zen master, "I am afraid of making the wrong decision. What if I fail? What if I regret it?" The master smiled and said, "Every path leads to somewhere. And if you do not like where it leads, you can always take another path. There are no wrong choices. There are only choices that teach you something new." So, my friend, what if you let go of the need for certainty? What if you stopped overthinking and started living? What if, instead of analyzing every step, you simply took one? You do not have to carry the heavy bag anymore. You can put it down. You can breathe. You can be free. And in the next part, we will explore something even deeper: how to train the mind so that overthinking no longer controls you. Stay with me. The journey is not over yet. The mind is a mirror. Close your eyes and imagine a still lake. The water is so calm that it reflects the sky perfectly, like a mirror. You can see the clouds, the trees, and even the birds flying above. But now, imagine throwing a stone into the water. Ripples form. The reflection becomes distorted. You can no longer see clearly. This is exactly what happens when the mind is disturbed by overthinking. When your mind is calm, you see reality as it is. You make clear decisions. You feel at peace. But when your mind is full of endless thoughts, doubts, and worries, your perception becomes distorted. The world feels chaotic, not because it is, but because your mind is. A student once asked his Zen master, "Why do I overthink so much? How can I stop?" The master picked up a bowl of water and stirred it with a stick. The student looked into the water, but he could not see his reflection. The surface was too disturbed. The master then stopped stirring. Slowly, the water became still. The student's reflection appeared. The master smiled and said, "This is your mind. If you keep stirring, you will never see clearly. But if you learn to be still, everything becomes clear on its own." So now, I ask you, how often do you stir your own mind? How often do you create chaos by thinking too much, by questioning everything, by trying to control what cannot be controlled? Overthinking is like stirring water. The more you do it, the less clarity you have. But here is the truth. You do not have to force yourself to stop thinking. You only need to stop engaging with unnecessary thoughts. You only need to step back and allow the mind to settle on its own. A cloud does not struggle to disappear. The wind simply carries it away. In the same way, your thoughts will pass if you do not hold on to them. There is an old Zen story about a traveler who came across a deep forest. He wanted to find his way out but kept walking in circles. The more he tried to remember the right path, the more confused he became. Finally, exhausted, he sat down under a tree and stopped thinking. He simply sat there in silence, breathing. And then, something amazing happened. As his mind became quiet, he suddenly noticed a small trail in the distance, one that he had overlooked before. He stood up, followed the trail, and found his way out. This is what happens when we let the mind be still. The answer that seems so hidden appears naturally. So, what can you do to stop overthinking? How do you calm the storm inside? First, understand that the mind is just like the body. If you feed it too much, it becomes unhealthy. If you overload it, it becomes weak. Most people do not realize this. They keep stuffing their minds with information, worries, and imaginary problems. They consume negative news, endless social media, and unnecessary drama. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, why they cannot sleep, why they are never at peace. The mind needs space to breathe. Just as you do not eat all day without stopping, you should not think all day without resting your mind. This is why meditation exists. Not to make you stop thinking, but to create space between you and your thoughts. A wise master once said, "Meditation is not about controlling your thoughts. It is about not letting your thoughts control you." If you have never meditated, start with something simple. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Feel the air moving in and out. Thoughts will come. That is natural. But instead of following them, simply watch them. Imagine your thoughts as clouds passing through the sky. Some will be dark, some will be light. But none of them stay forever. And if you practice this daily, something magical will happen. You will realize that your thoughts are not you. You will no longer be a prisoner of your own mind. But meditation is not the only way to calm overthinking. Another way is to become fully present in whatever you do. Overthinking happens when the mind is stuck in the past or the future. But life only exists in the present. Have you ever noticed that when you are deeply focused on something, painting, writing, walking, even washing dishes, your mind feels peaceful? That is because you are fully engaged with the present moment. So, the next time you catch yourself overthinking, do something physical. Stretch your body. Take a walk. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the world around you. The more present you become, the less room there is for useless thoughts. A monk once said, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I sleep, I sleep." At first, people thought this was obvious. But then they realized most people do not live this way. When they eat, they are thinking about their problems. When they walk, they are lost in worries. When they sleep, they are still trapped in thoughts. But true peace comes from being where you are, fully and completely. Now, I want you to take a moment. Breathe. Feel your body. Let go of any thought you were holding on to. This is what it feels like to be free. And once you learn to live this way, not stuck in the past, not trapped in the future, but fully present, you will understand something powerful. Overthinking is not a real problem. It is just a habit. And like any habit, it can be changed. So, my friend, the choice is yours. Will you continue stirring the water of your mind? Or will you let it become still? In the final part of this journey, we will bring everything together. We will step beyond overthinking and into true wisdom. Stay with me. We are almost there. The path beyond overthinking. Close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath. Let the air fill your lungs, and then slowly release it. Feel the space between each breath. That space, that quiet moment where nothing happens, is where true peace exists. You have walked this path with me, step by step, through the maze of overthinking. You have seen how thoughts can trap you, how the mind creates its own suffering, and how stillness can bring clarity. But now, we must take one final step. The step beyond overthinking. Many people believe that to stop overthinking, they must silence their minds completely. They think that true wisdom means having no thoughts at all. But this is not true. The mind will always think. That is its nature. A river does not stop flowing. The wind does not stop moving. And your thoughts will not disappear just because you wish them to. The real question is, do you let your thoughts control you? Imagine a great mountain standing tall against the sky. At its peak, everything is calm. The mountain does not chase the clouds, nor does it try to hold onto the passing winds. It simply stands, unmoved, watching. This is how you must be with your thoughts. Overthinking is not about having too many thoughts. It is about believing every thought, attaching to them, reacting to them. But when you step back, when you become the watcher instead of the one being controlled, something shifts. A Zen master once told his student, you do not have to stop the storm. You only need to find the eye of the storm. That eye, that still center, is already within you. Perhaps you have noticed this before, those moments when you are so deeply present that your mind is silent. Maybe it happened while watching the sunset, or while listening to the gentle sound of rain. Maybe it happened when you were completely lost in a task, so focused that time seemed to disappear. That stillness was not created. It was always there. You simply allowed it to emerge. The final step in overcoming overthinking is not about fighting the mind. It is about trusting something deeper than the mind. A fish does not need to understand the ocean to swim. A bird does not need to analyze the wind to fly. And you do not need to control every thought to find peace. Instead, learn to trust life. When you trust, you stop forcing. You stop trying to figure out every detail. You stop worrying about what might happen tomorrow or what could have been different yesterday. Overthinking is a symptom of doubt, of fear, of not trusting the flow of life. But look at nature. The sun rises without struggle. The seasons change without effort. Everything moves in harmony, without resistance. The greatest wisdom is not found in thinking more. It is found in letting go. So now, ask yourself, what are you still holding on to? What thoughts, what worries, what fears are you gripping so tightly? Let them go. Take another breath. You do not have to control everything. You do not have to solve every problem in your mind. You do not have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Trust that life will unfold as it should. Trust that you will find your way, not by thinking endlessly, but by being present, by listening, by allowing yourself to move with the flow rather than against it. If you do this, if you let go of the habit of overthinking, something incredible happens. You become lighter. You start living instead of just thinking about life. You stop drowning in worries and start swimming with ease. And one day, you will look back and wonder why you ever allowed your mind to control you. This is the end of our journey together, but it is the beginning of something greater for you. You now have the key. The door to peace is open. All you have to do is step through it. Before we end, I have one final request for you. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of people subscribe. If this journey has helped you, if these words have given you something valuable, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know, what is the one thing that resonated with you the most? What lesson will you take forward in your life? Your voice matters. Your journey matters. And I am honored to have walked this path with you. Now, go and live. Live fully. Live freely. And remember, peace was never something you had to find. It was always within you.